Fireflies by Glenda Kotchish. The last thing I remember? Florence repeats the question and closes her eyes. They wait patiently for a few minutes. When she finally speaks, she opens her eyes and they've never seen more blankness than the look on her face. The last thing I remember is a tiny voice telling me I wouldn't remember anything. The woman in uniform opens the car door and bends over for a closer look at Florence. Okay. Well then, prior to that, what's the last thing you remember? Florence closes her eyes. The woman and man, also in uniform, look at each other thinking, here we go again. I remember waking up. I hadn't been in bed long and I heard something fluttering against the windowsill next to my bed. Let me think, she says and closes her eyes again. Wake up. Florence rolls over in bed. Wake up. Florence opens her eyes and raises her head from the pillow and listens. Did she hear something? It's nearly spring, and the bedroom window is open, letting in a cool breeze. Since it's too soon for bugs to have come out of hibernation or hatch or whatever it is that insects do when making their appearance, there's no screen in the window. The screens are all in the basement, where they are stored in the fall. Finally, you're awake, a small voice says. Florence sits up in bed. She looks around the room. Over here, the voice says, on the windowsill. Florence stretches out her hand to turn on the lamp beside her bed. Stop, no light. I can't take the light, the voice says. Florence withdraws her hand. We need to talk, the voice says. I must be dreaming. I hope I'm dreaming, Florence says as she rubs her eyes. Pinch yourself, the voice says. What? There's no need to be afraid. If anything, I should be afraid of you. Look at the size of you and the size of me, so calm down. Who are you? Florence whispers. So you didn't notice me today when you were out there digging around with your spade, not paying attention? In the park, you mean? Florence whispers back. Park? Well, if that's what you call it now. So you'll know it wasn't always a park. It was a nice, quiet, peaceful place. It was dark. It was not too hot, not too cold. Perfect. But that's over now. And I'm, what do you call it, disturbed, uprooted, turned out, homeless. All of those things. And you're to blame. Are you an insect? Florence asks, still clutching the bedsheet. I most certainly am not an insect. You're pretty tiny, Florence offers. I'm tiny, yes, that's true, but make no mistake. I can be fierce, tiny but fierce. So don't get any smart ideas like trying to squish me like a bug. I won't have it. I wouldn't do that. I don't squish things. Florence replies indignantly. Really? What about a roach? A cockroach? Florence frowns. Well, that's different. They're dirty and disgusting and spread diseases. I rest my case. I'm a pretty good judge of character, and given a chance, I think you might find me, what is it you said? Dirty? Disgusting? I'm sorry, I can't give you the benefit of the doubt, as they say, so I'm going to demonstrate why you should give up on any thoughts of stamping me out. Just then, the windowsill begins to glow, a greenish color, then blue, then purple, then red. I'm going to turn and direct this outside the window. I don't want to burn the place down, just yet anyway. After all, as I said, I need your help. Florence sees a slight movement in the center of the red color, and then a spark of light, and then orange, and yellow flames shoot out the window into the night air. It was a fierce display. Thankfully, it only lasts a few seconds and it's over with only a haze of smoke remaining, streaming from a small red light on the windowsill. Florence jumps out of bed and runs over to the bedroom door, ready to flee downstairs and out into the yard. Wait! No running away now. That was just a demonstration, just to warn you off any monkey business, in case you think you can get rid of me. I have no intention of harming you. You see, I need your help, as I've said. Well, what are you? Florence stammers. My name is Losir. Lasser? Florence repeats. No, not Lasser. It's pronounced Losir. It means flame. And if you haven't figured it out yet, I am a dragoness. Losir? A dragon? Oh my God. Florence sucks in her breath and sits down on the floor. Dragoness, if you please. The dragoness puffs out the last of the smoke and clears her throat. That always leaves me a little flushed, she says. Now don't be alarmed, but I'm going to fly over to you so you can get a good look at me. Besides, I've been screaming my head off over here to make myself heard, and my throat's a little dry right now. This way we can speak normally. Why don't you get up from the floor and go sit in the chair over there? I'll fly over to the table and we can talk. Florence rises to her feet. May I get my robe from the bed? By all means, make yourself comfortable, Losir says, still perched on the windowsill. Florence crosses to the bed, retrieves her white terry cloth robe and slips it on. Keeping her eye on the windowsill, she backs into the upholstered chair and lowers herself onto its soft cushion. I can't say I care for your robe. A little plain, don't you think? Losir comments. Florence looks down at her robe. It's perfect, actually. Soft and warm. You know, you can have soft and warm in color, Losir says as she spreads her tiny rainbow color wings and glides across the room. She lands gently on the tabletop, shakes her wings slightly, then folds them against her back. She settles herself upon a book on the table. She curls her luminous tail around her legs and crosses her arms. A soft glow emanates from Losir. Whew, that took some effort. Do you have any water handy? I'm parched. Yes, there's a glass of water behind you on the table. Can you manage it? I mean, do I need to get a tiny cup or something? Florence starts to rise. And with that, Losir opens her wings and flies to the glass of water. She perches on the rim, bends over and gracefully unfurls her rather long tongue and laps up some water. Ah! Florence exclaims and puts her hand over her mouth. Losir glances at Florence and narrows her green eyes. See what I mean? Disgusting ran through your mind, admit it. No, you just startled me. Your tongue is, well, quite long, Florence stammers. Don't lie to me. I know loathing when I see it. And with that, Losir daintily laps up more water until she's had her fill. She flies back to her seat on the book. That's better. I feel quite refreshed. Losir says as she removes a silvery cloth from a pocket at her waist and begins to softly rub the scales on her tail, the yellow ones, then the purple ones. Where were we? Florence moves to pick up her glasses from the table. Stop! What are you up to? Losir shouts. I'm only getting my eyeglasses from the table here. Oh. All right, go ahead. In the future, let me know before you make any sudden movements. You're huge, you know, and I don't want to go into automatic reflex and torch the place. It's for your own safety. Sorry. May I? Florence asks, pointing at her eyeglasses. Losir nods, and Florence slowly reaches and picks them up. With your permission, I'd like to look at you a little closer, Florence timidly says. Be my guest. Lucille puts the silvery cloth back in her pocket, lifts her arms over her head, uncurls her tail, stretches out with her legs, and opens her wings. Tiny slivers of light shine as she moves, like a prism. All the colors of the rainbow reflect off the surface of the table, the walls, and the ceiling. Florence is astounded by what she sees. The tiny creature is very much like a human. Head, face, arms, hands, body, and legs. Her face is slender and long. Her cheeks are rosy and her lips full. Her eyebrows are arched perfectly over dazzling green eyes. The only dragon-like features are the long, tapering dragon tail, the wings, the rather beautiful crown-like crest on her head, and the multicolored scales covering the most of her body. And, of course, the tongue, the flames, and the smoke she commands. Yes, and her temper, very dragon-like. Beautiful, Florence murmurs. Thank you, Lucille replies, recurling her tail and refolding her wings. But you don't look like any dragoness that I've ever seen, Florence says, continuing to look in wonderment. Really? Lucille rolls her eyes. And just how many dragons and dragonesses have you seen, may I ask? In books, I mean, Florence quickly explains. In books, your type are rather frightening and reptile-like, with horrid eyes and scary long faces, huge teeth, and bodies very much like alligators or such. As Lucille's eyes narrow, Florence quickly adds, "Oh, but you're none of these things. You are quite beautiful." Lucille relaxes. I really don't owe you an explanation, you know, but I'm feeling generous. First off, my type, as you say. Florence interrupts. I'm sorry about that. Lucille casts an impatient look at Florence. As I was saying, my type was never on the large size as depicted in your books and tales. True, not all dragons are as tiny as myself. However, we have never been the huge creatures described by your type, as it were. Now, we certainly can understand why the storytellers would exaggerate. For example, St. George, he's the famous dragon slayer, if I'm not mistaken. He would have hardly become a saint for slaying a creature of my size, would he? If so, anyone who swats a fly would qualify for sainthood, and you couldn't have that, could you? Lucille draws a big breath of air, then slowly breathes out. Well, let's see. Next, I think you owe me an apology. Apologize? For what? Florence asks. How quickly you forget. We've been over this. Are you on something that's muddling your mind? I'll remind you, for destroying my home, my abode, my domicile. Oh, right. I am truly sorry. Florence bends down and looks her in the eye. I had no idea you were there. Where were you exactly, anyway? Don't do that. You could severely harm yourself by fixing on my gaze. I don't think you fully understand. I am a dragoness and quite powerful. And it doesn't matter where I was, since I can't go back there now. With all due respect, Lucille, if you're so powerful, why do you need my help? Insolent woman! A mist of steam spurts from Lucille's nostrils. Soon the room is engulfed in an eye. Oh, wait! I'm sorry, really sorry. Please don't be angry. Florence stiffens and grips the arms of the chair. You see, I am quite... What do you call it? Impatient. Yes, that's the word. And I lose control rather easily. And this is a bad thing. Back in the day, it was fine, but not at this age. I don't want, or rather the Grand Dragon does not want for us to draw attention to ourselves. We are, as you might say, laying low, under the radar. There are more of you? Florence is astonished. Why, yes, of course. Many, actually, but your species takes no notice. We are quite tiny, at least for the time being. But I've said enough. Let's get down to business. Florence frowns. Something doesn't seem quite right. Nothing seems quite right. I'll explain. At this stage, I'm very sensitive to light. You've awakened me prematurely from hibernation, and I will need at least 24 hours to get past this state. In this house of yours, is there a dark, cool place where I can recuperate? Lucille flutters her wings. Yes, the basement, Florence says. Is there a window, a source of light? Lucille asks. Yes, but there's a curtain. Good. Take me there. If you need a light, I can illuminate the way. Lucille stands. Right. Let me get my slippers. It's rather cool down there. You have my permission. Lucille nods. Geez, Florence mumbles as she slides her feet into her beige slippers. She notices Lucille shaking her head. What now? Florence asks. You're just not into color, are you? You really should think about stepping it up. Imitate nature a little, like the flowers, the sky, the rocks and stones. Anything. Lucille comments. Florence ignores her. I'm ready. Good. I think I'll sit on your shoulder, that way I can light the way. Do you mind? Lucille says. Thanks for asking. No, I don't mind. Just don't set me on fire or steam up my glasses. Very funny. Just try not to irritate me. Lucille flies easily to Florence's shoulder and alights. I'll blame you if anything happens. Of course you will, Florence says as she walks down the stairs. Lucille holds out her hands, and a yellow light falls on the walls and floor. She touches her shoulder, and the light changes to blue, then green. You're quite like a fiber optic Christmas tree, Florence remarks as they reach the bottom of the stairs. Yes, I suppose so. Same principle, actually, Lucille says. How do you know the principle of fiber optics? Florence asks. I've been around. I'm quite old, you know. I try to keep up. By the way, do you know which of your modern inventions annoys me most? I'm afraid to ask. Your drones. They fly about, absurdly clumsy, and get in everyone's way. The birds, the bees, just about anything that's flying about. You people really need to get these under control. Here we are at the kitchen. Do you want to stop and let me make some coffee or tea? No, not really a tea or coffee drinker. Just water mostly. Why not get a glass of that and take it with us to the dungeon, though? Lucille suggests. Basement, not dungeon, Florence corrects. Fine, whatever. Florence runs some tap water into a glass. The basement is right through this door. Can you shine a bit brighter? It's really dark down there. Yes, of course. Lucille grows brighter. How's this? Perfect. Hang on, these stairs are steep. Florence makes her way slowly down to the basement. At the bottom, Lucille slips off Florence's shoulder and flies about the room. She flits from the laundry corner, washing machine and dryer, to the rows of shelving holding jars and canned vegetables and jam. She surveys another corner of crates marked toys, Christmas decorations, Halloween, and crafts. She eyes a chest and asks, "What's in that?" "Books, I think," Florence says. Losier flies towards the chest and hovers over it. "Open it." "Magic word?" Florence mumbles under her breath. "I heard that," Losier remarks. "Please open the trunk." Florence raises the lid and the smell of old books wafts through the room. Losier flies into the chest and stands on a pile of books. "This will do fine. I'll just rest here for the day. No more than 2, and I'll be on my way." "Do you need anything?" Florence asks. Well, yes. A pillow would be nice on which to rest. Nothing large, but maybe decorative. I can't abide austerity. Something to eat would be nice. I don't require much. I'm fond of honey and grubs." "Grubs?" Florence frowns. "Yes, grubs. Beetle larvae." "And where would I find beetle larvae?" Florence asks. "You have a dogwood tree in your front yard that's full of grubs. It will be dead by June at the rate they're going at it. If you're fond of that tree, you should get it checked out, but it might be too late. I'll need 2 grubs." "Sure, I'll get right on it," Florence replies. Losier stares at Florence. "Well?" "Well, what?" Florence asks. "You can leave now. I'd like to get some rest. When you have the honey and grubs, knock before entering, if you please. I don't want to be startled. You know how I get when I'm startled. Reflex actions." "Right. Well, I'll see you later." Florence climbs the steps and closes the basement door. She goes to the kitchen and puts on the kettle, then sits down at the kitchen table in a daze. "This can't be happening," she thinks. "I have a tiny, fire-breathing dragoness, sleeping in a trunk in my basement. I will be digging grubs at first light for her breakfast, and God knows what else." Florence finds it's taking longer than a couple of days for Losier to rally from the early termination of her annual hibernation. 2 weeks later, well into spring, trees budding out, daffodils blooming, Easter approaching, Losier graduates from grubs to bits of chicken and shrimp, for which Florence is grateful. No more trips to the dogwood tree. Besides honey, Losier expresses a craving for blueberries and almonds. In the evenings, once it's dark, Losier ventures from her basement lair to the other parts of the house, watching Florence prepare their dinner. "What is that spice you've added?" Losier asks. "Old Bay. I always use it on shrimp." "Rinse it off mine. I'll roast it myself, plain," Losier instructs. "Not in my kitchen, you won't." "You're welcome to go outside and throw some flames, but not indoors," Florence insists. I see your point. But you do know that I toasted the grubs in the basement. That is, early on. I must say, I'm enjoying the culinary variety of late. Did you get the blueberries when you went to the market?" Florence rolls her eyes. "Yes. Help yourself. There, on the counter." "I'd rather wait and eat together. We can sit at the dining room table. I'll go light the candles." Losier swoops out of the kitchen. Florence runs after Losier. "No! Stop! No fire!" Later at dinner, Losier sips her water from a porcelain cup, part of a tiny toy tea set that she uncovered in the basement. "What are you drinking?" She eyes Florence's wine glass. "White wine, a Pinot Grigio." "I'll try some," Losier says, and alights on Florence's wine glass. "That's probably not a good idea, Losier. It might upset your system, and you are a little unpredictable as it is." "It's an experiment. I'll be fine. I'll just take a sip." Losier bends down to lap up a sip of wine. "Wait! Let me pour some in your cup. I'm not really keen on you dipping your tongue, fine tongue as it is, into my glass, Florence says. Seeing a frown begin to crease Locier's forehead, Florence quickly adds, "You'll enjoy it better by sipping from your own cup. You'll see." Locier considers this. "Yes, I suppose you're right." She flies back to her place at the table. Florence, at Locier's insistence, has set up a miniature table and chair atop the dining room tabletop. They are another of Locier's finds from the miniature dollhouse in the basement. Locier sips the wine. A bit tangy. It could be sweeter. "Do you have any mead?" "Mead? Well, no. Isn't that a bit archaic? Where would I get such a thing? In case you decide mead should be added to my shopping list, I'll warn you in advance." Locier frowns, and Florence quickly raises her wine glass. "Cheers." "Cheers. I suppose I can make do with this." Locier downs the cup of wine and holds it out for more. Florence refills the tiny cup. "Back in the day, mead was abundant. It's made from honey, you know." "I didn't know that." Florence swirls the wine in her glass. "No, I didn't think you would." "Some music would be nice with dinner, don't you think?" Locier suggests. "Yes, I agree about the music. But you really should stop with the little jabs all the time. You are a guest in my home after all. And as host, I should be afforded a little respect. At least a little courtesy." "In the trunk, in the basement, nestled in the decorative pillow you provided. Come, let's go take a look. You can clean up the dishes later." Locier jumps out of her chair, opens her wings, and heads for the basement door. "Geez, you know you are so bossy. You've never once offered to help me with the dishes, you know." "Just how much help can I be, really? Your dishes are enormous. I'd spend the entire day on one." "I could heat the water for you, but you have that no fire rule. If you want my assistance with something, it will have to be something that requires my special skills." "For instance?" Florence asks as they make their way down the stairs. "Well, let's see. Do you have any grudges on anyone?" Not really." Florence thinks a moment and then says, "Well, there is this nasty woman down the street, Mrs. Hendrickson. She irks me to no end with her busybody association rules. She actually measures people's grass with a ruler to see if it has exceeded the acceptable lawn grass length. And if a child's ball lands in her yard, it's a goner, never to be seen again. The ball, that is, not the child. Horrid woman, but I don't really hold a grudge or anything. She's mostly annoying, that's all." "Why do you ask?" "That's good enough for me. I could torch her house. Just point out which one and say the word. Consider it my part of chipping in." Locier offers. "No, really, that's not necessary. She doesn't irk me that much. Not enough to see her house burned down." "Well, how about if I leave her house intact and just torch her? These things go unchallenged, you know. My uncle, who is especially testy, does this from time to time. The authorities always chalk it up to spontaneous combustion." "No, please, it's not necessary, really. I shouldn't have mentioned her. Let's forget it. You don't have to chip in. You are my guest." "Right you are." Locier agrees and settles on the open lid of the trunk. Here they are. Nestled on the pillow are 3 tiny eggs, one purple, one blue, and one gold. When these hatch, any time now, we can be off. Locier strokes the eggs, each one in turn. Can they fly immediately when they hatch? And why are the eggs different colors? No, they can't fly immediately. I will have to carry them. And they are different colors because that's how dragon eggs are. Colorful. Where will you take them? Back to the shore. This colonization idea needs to be thought through a little more before sending someone, like me, out on a trial run. There are major flaws. People like you who think they are cleaning up the environment by disturbing perfectly good Stonewall. I said I was sorry. Oh, look! The purple egg is twitching. Is it happening? Losier points at the purple egg. She bends over and examines it. It's always the purple one that hatches first. I don't know why, but that's the rule. The purples are always dragonesses. Well, usually. Sometimes a purple egg is a dragon. And oh, what a dragon queen he turns out to be. Delightful, really. The purple egg cracks open, and a tiny dragon crawls out. Is it a dragon or a dragoness? Florence asks as she clasps her hands together. Dragoness, Losier confirms. See the little rings of scales around her neck, under her chin the gold ones that run counter to the other scales? Dragoness. The little dragoness shakes loose her wings and stretches her arms and legs. She opens her eyes and shakes her head. As her scales dry, they glisten and glow, a rainbow of colors. Beautiful, says Florence. Naturally, agrees Losier. Look, the other two are hatching. In short order, the golden egg and the blue egg open, and two tiny dragons step out, shake their wings, and open their eyes. Florence and Losier watch and congratulate each other, and then wonder why they are doing so. They will be hungry soon. We'll need water and grubs, Losier says. It's dark now, so I will go with you to the dogwood tree. Aren't you afraid of being discovered? Florence asks as they hurry up the stairs. No, we are often mistaken for fireflies. A common mistake, and good coverage for us. Don't the fireflies, bats, and wasps try to attack you? Florence asks. Ha! Are you kidding? Their DNA, yes, I know about DNA. I keep up, remember? Their DNA is coded to avoid us over the eons. After being torched repeatedly, they learn their lesson. We mix in and blend. So no, I'll be fine. Florence gets her spade and goes outside to dig grubs under the dogwood tree. No one notices the little firefly beside her flitting about. The next day, Florence wakes up with a headache to find Losier flying around her bed. Get up, we need to go, Losier announces. Go where? Florence asks. To the shore. We need to go now before the little ones learn to fly. Today? I need to go to work today. And why can't you take them? You said you were going to take them, Florence protests. Listen, you can't go to work. You must take us to the shore. It is too far for me to fly in one night, and I only fly at night. If I wait until dark, the little ones will have learned to fly, and there is no stopping them. It will be like, what's the expression? Herding cats. Yes, that's it. So you will drive us to the shore. There is a headland I have in mind where they will be safe. Now let's go. Don't waste time. Florence calls her office and makes an excuse. She did, in fact, have a terrific headache. Losier appears in the kitchen with the little dragons and dragoness wrapped in a silver cloth which she had slung around her neck and over her shoulder. Every once in a while, the silver cloth moves as the little ones shift, stretch, and yawn. They go outside, and Florence opens the car door. Losier flies in. Where's a nice place these three can nap? The cup holder? Florence suggests as she removes a paper coffee cup. Losier eyes the cup holder. Too open. I need something enclosed. I don't want them flying about. The glove compartment? Florence opens the glove compartment. This will do nicely. They can nap on the gloves. Very convenient. Where to? East, of course, towards the coast. Losier says as she places the little dragons and dragoness in the glove compartment, opens the cloth, then carefully closes the door. 4 hours later, Florence weaves the car around hairpin curves on a graveled road. She can hear the ocean waves breaking, but the trees hide the ocean from view. Turn right here, Losier says as they approach a brown National Park sign. Just keep straight on this road. 15 minutes later, they come upon a cabin with a small graveled lot. Park over by that opening in the trees, Losier says. Open the glove compartment, Losier says. Never did learn that magic word, did you? If you please. Satisfied? I have other things on my mind. Florence unlatches the glove compartment, and 3 sets of green eyes blink open and close. The little ones are seated upon the gloves and start to flutter their wings. Just in time, Losier says, as she wraps them in the silver cloth and ties it around her waist. One last thing before I go. Are you sure you don't want me to torch that crabby woman's house, the one who yells at children, keeps their balls, and makes all the rules and so forth? She's a witch, you know. What? She's a witch, a nasty one at that. I spotted her right off the bat. No, please, I can deal with her in other ways. But thanks anyway. How about I get my Uncle Rufus to visit? Is there some politician that you would like to disappear in a puff of smoke? Or maybe that dreadful teacher in elementary school? You did have one of them, didn't you? A hideous teacher that hated you. Everyone does, you know. I've heard the complaints through the ages. No, please, but thanks anyway, Florence says. As you wish, Losier says. Now, one more thing. You just stay right here in your car. Relax. Losier reaches into her pocket and withdraws a tiny pouch. She opens it and takes out a few grains of blue sand. Florence, although I'm not happy that my plans for colonizing didn't work out, thanks to you, you did make restitution of sorts, in your way. Thanks, Florence says. Don't interrupt. Well, yes, thanks for your help. In the end, it worked out, didn't it? Losier begins to blow the sand crystals in her hand. A blue mist rises and floats through the car. Losier opens her wings and flies up to Florence's ear. Florence's eyes begin to shut. You won't remember any of this, my dear. Goodbye now. And she was off, through the open window and flying towards the break in the treetops. Ma'am, are you all right now? You saw something on your windowsill? Do you remember getting in your car and driving here? Do you know where you live? The park's closing and you'll have to leave, says the woman in uniform. Florence straightens up. Yes, of course. I must have drifted off to sleep. I had the most amazing dream, I guess. I'm fine, really. Florence starts the car. I'll be off now. She puts the car in drive and glances in her rearview mirror. Glowing in the early dusk at the edges of the trees are 4 fireflies flitting about. Florence smiles as a shadow of memory flickers through her mind and is quickly gone, lost. She makes her way down the winding road out of the park. Epilogue. One morning, 6 months later, on her way to work, Florence notices 3 fire trucks and firemen battling a blaze just down the street. Standing on the curb is old Mrs. Hendrickson, wringing her hands and watching her house go up in flames. Florence shakes her head. Something about someone wanting to torch Mrs. Hendrickson? I just can't put my finger on it, she says as she detours around the block.